What was St Peter's like in the period before the fire, Don? And what's the reaction of the church and the village to the fire?
Well, St Peter's was quite like any village church. There was an organ, an organist, a choir, and at the most we had 20 or 30 people worshipping on a Sunday. After the fire, there was a great deal of hurt in the village, I guess, but by and large people accepted the plans that we had later, and only 2 families, as I recall, left the church as a result of the fire and their disappointment of not having the St Peter's rebuilt.
Carol was at St Andrew's on Palm Sunday 1976 when the new church opened, and there through the 1980s when there was substantial growth. What was it like to be there then, Carol?
It was very exciting. It was a time of great excitement and expectancy as we looked forward to the new chapter that was opening here. We had house groups and prayer groups, which were quite an innovation for lots of us. The thing that I remember most about the 80s was a particular house group that we all did, and it was called a commitment course, when we looked each week at the impact that our faith should make in every area of our lives. And we finished up on the final session of this by making a cake to which everybody had to bring an ingredient. And if they weren't there, that ingredient didn't get put in the cake. And it just reinforced the fact that every one of us was important, and without each other, we wouldn't function.
Charles was one of the young families in St Andrews at the time, and with the new housing that had arrived in Alresford, many young families were moving into the community. How did St Andrews reach out to those families?
Yes, there were very, very many young families in the village, and it was during the 80s that the new rector Eric Britt and his wife Sue came to the church, and they really got very many children's groups going. There were the Tinies and Discoverers and Pathfinders and all these different groups, and in fact Sue was the first person to introduce a creche to the church. We had lots and lots of holiday weeks, clubs and things like that loads of children came to and thoroughly enjoyed.
Pete, St Andrews has always been a very close church family where many have come to faith. How did you come to be part of St Andrews?
Well, I originally came along with my wife Lynn, and that's mid-80s, I think, came along. And I just used to come to church before I was a Christian. I just used to come with her. But I came in and I was immediately part of the church family, playing football, cricket for the church teams, being involved with all the different events they put on. Eventually, after several years, they did an Alpha course. So I came to the Alpha course, and following that, I gave my life to Christ. And the family just keeps going on and on.
Ray, who was the church warden at St Andrews for nearly 20 years, St Andrews has considered doing an extension before. Why do you think that this was the right time?
On this occasion, for the New Horizons, the difference was that we'd progressed to that same position, but I think we were being asked very prayerfully to consider just how far we wanted to go with it. So the early indications were that, God was really encouraging us through our time in prayer. And when the PCC came to the point where they were discussing this, to say, were we for it or were we against it? God was even involved in that, I think, because it was a unanimous decision to go forward at that stage and commit ourselves to really getting the plans put down and paying for it in advance, which was quite a step. And God just encourages along the way. And I suppose you could call it a Joshua experience, because at each stage God seemed to encourage us through the prayer, through pictures. And these pictures were of people heading towards the river, and then God leading them into the river, and then from the river through various stages and out the other side. So there was a continuous movement through prayer being answered with God.